I'm Archbishop Mark Coleridge, and you are watching Q&A, question and answer for the Catholic leader. One of the really sad things is to meet people who want to have children, often desperately want to have children, but who for one reason or another can't conceive or haven't been able to conceive so far. There's a real pathos to this situation. I mean, some people don't want to have children, but when people do want to have children and can't, it really has about it a very particular kind of pathos. And you can absolutely understand why in such a situation people would be tempted by the medical marvel that we call IVF, in vitro fertilisation. And given what IVF can do, it doesn't always, because it's a long and difficult and often anguishing and certainly costly process. But at the end of that, often there is a beautiful child, and no one denies that the child is beautiful. Given all of that, the question that's asked sometimes is, well, why does the Catholic Church dig its heels in and say that in vitro fertilisation is not the way to go? What's the problem? The problem is our understanding of conception and childbirth and how it's done. IVF is an essentially scientific approach to conception. It's the work of technology and a marvellous work in many ways. It's a medical response to a human problem. But what the Church insists, faithful to its vision of both marriage and childbearing, is that the conception is to be always the fruit not so much of technological manipulation, however marvellous, but of that profound personal intercommunication of man and wife in the bond of marriage. That's what sexual intercourse expresses, and that's what the child, who is the fruit of love, also expresses. And when you take conception and the child out of that context, we have a problem. The other difficulty, as far as the Church can see, is that the process often involves what I would call a kind of collateral damage. Embryos are produced, but not all of them, in fact, are used, and some inevitably must be cast aside. And for the Church, that amounts to a violation of human life. It might not be intended to be such, but it fails to respect the dignity of human life from the moment of conception. These embryos are not just to be disposed of, they are to be treated with the respect that human life always demands from the moment of conception. The other thing is that in many cases, though not all, there are other ways of addressing infertility and childlessness, and that sometimes the quick resort to the difficult and often anguishing process of IVF can mean that people don't even look at other options. The Church says that other options exist and that they are worth exploring as a way of not only respecting human life in some general sense, but respecting the truth of marriage, that deep interpersonal communion between man and woman, between husband and wife, that produces the new life that comes from God.